Have you ever achieved something you worked hard for and still felt like you didn't deserve it? You passed the exam, you got the opportunity, you landed the job, and were trusted with the responsibility. People congratulated you, they celebrated you, yet somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, what if they made a mistake? What if I'm not actually good enough? What if one day they discover I don't belong here? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. In fact, you may have experienced something called imposter syndrome. Before we conclude this episode, I'm going to show you one simple habit that has helped me push back against imposter syndrome whenever it creeps in. Stay with me because this one habit completely changed the way I respond to self-doubt. Welcome back to Youth Balance. I am Miss J, and this is how we clock in. I am full of power, of love, of a calm and well-balanced mind. I am disciplined and self-controlled. Before we go further, I need you to hear this. Feeling like a fraud does not mean you're one. Today, we are talking about why so many capable people struggle with self-doubt. Why your brain keeps moving the goalposts every time you succeed. And a simple tool that can help you silence that inner critic when it gets loud. Because you deserve to walk into every room you've earned your way into. There was a time I was given an opportunity that I genuinely wanted. On the outside, I looked calm, confident, prepared. But internally, I was a mess. I kept thinking, why was I chosen? Do I deserve this? What if I disappoint everyone or they discover that I'm not as capable as they think I am? Nothing had actually gone wrong. Nobody had criticized me nor questioned my ability. The battle was happening entirely inside my head. In retrospect, I realized something important. I wasn't unqualified. I was simply stepping into a bigger version of myself. And sometimes growth feels exactly like that. It feels uncomfortable. Not because you don't belong, but because you've never been there before. Here's the irony. Imposter syndrome rarely shows up for people who aren't trying. It usually targets the people who care deeply, the students who want to excel, the creators who want to make meaningful work, the young professionals trying to build something valuable, the leaders carrying responsibilities nobody sees. As you grow, you enter new phases of unfamiliar territory, and every level introduces a new question. What if I'm not ready for this? Some of us have been taught that if success doesn't feel painful enough, we didn't earn it. If we aren't exhausted, we are not working hard enough. If we are not constantly stressed, we are falling behind. Social media doesn't help. We scroll through carefully curated highlights and start believing everyone else has everything figured out. Everyone else seems confident, successful, and certain of their journey. Meanwhile, we are comparing their highlight reel to our behind-the-scenes reality. And that's a battle nobody wins. If this conversation is bringing something up for you, I have created something called the Unburdening Box. It's a place where you can anonymously share the fears you are carrying. I read every submission, and some of them may become future conversations here on Youth Balance. Always anonymously, of course. Click the link in the description. There was this time I completed a project I had worked incredibly hard on. When positive feedback started coming in, do you know what I did? I rejected every compliment and explained every success away. I told myself, they're just being nice. It wasn't that impressive. Anyone could have done it. Looking back now, I find that interesting. You know, it is so easy for us to accept criticism, but to question every single praise. Why do we question them? Because self-doubt has a way of making us distrust our strengths. But here's the truth. Luck might open a door, But consistency keeps you in the room. Luck doesn't build discipline. It doesn't develop skill. Luck doesn't create growth. You put in the work. You showed up. You learned and improved. You earned more than you're willing to give yourself credit for. Now let's talk about one of the most liberating concepts in psychology. It's called the spotlight effect. Most of us walk through life feeling like everyone is watching us. We remember every awkward moment, every mistake, every sentence we wish we could take back. We assume everyone else noticed too, because we live inside our own minds 24 hours a day. We are hyper aware of our flaws. But here is what we often forget. Everyone else is doing the exact same thing. They're worried about their mistakes, their insecurities, their awkward moments, their unfinished goals. There was this time I replayed the conversation in my head for almost an entire day. I was convinced I had said something awkward. I kept revisiting it, analyzing it, criticizing myself. Hours later, I met the same person again. And do you know what happened? They couldn't even remember the conversation. Meanwhile, I had spent the entire day carrying the weight of it. And that was a powerful lesson for me. Most people are not studying us nearly as closely as we imagine. Think about the last time someone stumbled over their words during a presentation. Do you remember every detail? Probably not, because you were focused on your own thoughts, your own concerns, your own spotlight. And that is exactly what everyone else is doing. The pressure begins to lift when you realize this. People are not analyzing you nearly as much as you think they are. They are trying to survive their own insecurities too. You're not a fraud. You are a human being surrounded by other human beings trying to figure life out one day at a time. Now I want to share a tool that has helped me and many others challenge self-doubt. I call it an evidence file. Open a folder on your phone. Call it evidence. Every encouraging message, every compliment, every achievement, every positive review, every moment that reminds you that you're growing, save it, screenshot it, store it. Not because you need constant validation, but because your memory is selective. When anxiety shows up, your brain suddenly becomes very good at remembering failures and very bad at remembering victories. Very recently, I found myself questioning everything, including whether I was making any real difference through youth balance. My abilities, my progress, my purpose. It felt like every achievement had disappeared from my memory. Then I started scrolling through some messages and encouragement from friends, positive feedback, how an episode inspired them to make changes, kind words from people whose opinions are respected. And I realized something. The facts hadn't changed. Only my feelings had. And feelings are not always reliable narrators. That's why evidence matters. When self-doubt starts shouting, don't argue with your emotions. Open the file. Look at the evidence. Look at the growth. Look at the progress. Look at the person you've become. Look at lives you have transformed in your own little way. Facts over feelings every single time. Before we end today's conversation, I want you to think about something. What if the voice telling you that you don't belong is wrong? What if the discomfort you're feeling isn't proof that you're a fraud? What if it's proof that you're growing? Every confident person you admire was once uncertain. Every expert was once a beginner. Every leader was once inexperienced. Nobody starts as the finished versions of themselves. They become that person by continuing despite the doubt. The goal is not to eliminate every moment of self-doubt. The goal is to stop allowing self-doubt to decide what you do. Courage is not confidence. Courage is moving forward, while confidence is still catching up. So apply for the opportunity. Speak up in the meeting. Start the project. Share the idea. Walk into the room. You don't need permission to belong there. You've already earned your seat. And if nobody has reminded you recently, let me remind you now. You belong. Not because you're perfect, not because you know everything, but because you're learning, growing, showing up. And that is enough. If this episode resonated with you, I think you would also appreciate our conversation on you aren't falling behind. Stop comparing your life. Because self-doubt and burnout often feed each other. Always remember, balance isn't something you find. It's something you create. And until I see you in the next episode, keep thriving.